Welcome to another live webinar that we have today. And this is a special one for us because we have a friend on here with us. I was going to say, I was going to say old friend, but then I thought that might come across wrong because they didn't mean it that way. Miss Amanda, we have a great friend of ours who used to be a part of our team, and she was amazing with us. But her passion and her just amazing expertise fell in the self-directed IRA world, where we were lucky to get her from in the first place. But then her passion pulled her back. She went on to be a great member of the team at Specialized Trust Company. Amanda is a certified professional self-directed IRA, a certified self-directed IRA professional. She's with Specialized Trust Company. I know I'm tripping all over myself here as I get started, Amanda. I'm just flustered having you back on here with me.
The pressure.
For years, Amanda and I used to travel. I mean, we've gone to so many different conferences together. Amanda used to do tons of presentations for us as a company. So it's just such a pleasure and a real gift to us to be able to reconnect, have her back here, and share with all of our guests today on our self-directed IRA webinar. So Amanda, thank you so much, and feel free to introduce yourself or say anything else you want to add, but such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me, and we'll do the hug over the Zoom. I miss you, buddy. No, love the whole family there, all the team members, and I couldn't say it better. I mean, you do have just all rock stars, and I was blessed for the experience to be part of the team and the fam for as many years as I did. And yes, guys, I'm just a big old nerd egghead when it comes to self-directed IRAs and 401ks. So that is what I do. And I've always been that, Spitfire blonde talking about tax-free profits in your IRA. And I still am today. And, it parlays and pairs so well with real estate that, I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. So thank you for putting this together, because I know we have a lot of, a ton of history. We have a ton of mutual friends, acquaintances, professional clients that, there's just so much overlap there. It's just, it's remarkable. And it's really great to be able to have that, in just the professional world. But for those of you listening, just on your team, I mean, when you're doing investing or finances or even building your own company, you got to have the right butts in the right seats. And I applaud, the whole Clothier team and fam that you guys have always done that just meticulously and just with, just fierce execution, to the point of making sure that the end client has that, I'll say the wow experience, right? Yeah, that's what we do, right?
That's what we were shooting for. So that's awesome.
Well
hey,
done.
Well, thank you very much. Look, before we jump in, I wanted to kind of set the tone for everybody out there and kind of tell them what we're going to do here today and why. So there was a very, very particular reason why we wanted Amanda to join us today. And it's not just that she is, in our opinion, the foremost professional at this and the best in the business, but it is her expertise. This is not something that we take lightly. This is self-directed IRAs are not something that you can that you can't mess around with. You have to make sure that you are with the best. You have a custodian that you trust, somebody that has years of experience in the industry itself. It's not unlike choosing a high quality turnkey company or high quality management company. In fact, they dovetail, that the two together can be really powerful. And we as a company, we have today somewhere between 800 and 900 clients that have over 1,200 accounts with us that are inside their self-directed IRAs. Some, the reason why that we've got husbands and wives that each have their own individual accounts. Then they have joint accounts. They buy real estate amongst all the different accounts. We have many, many investors today, both current clients and new clients, that they're looking for, hey, how do I maximize the future? A lot of this real estate has always been about, what can I do today, which is absolutely important. But the real power of real estate is what happens tomorrow, not so much what happens today. And we've always found that self-directed IRAs are a powerful, powerful tool to build wealth for later. Just by the nature of how the IRA works. So, Amanda, that's where we are as a company right now. And in the real estate in particular, the industry in particular, we have a lot of clients that have equity inside their IRA. So they already own real estate. So they're looking for options and what they can do. We have a lot of clients that have opportunity rollover. So they have those accounts. I know you're going to discuss that with us, that they're not self-directing today, that possibly they could. We do get questions quite often about dead money, so these old accounts that are not being self-directed and therefore they're not producing. So we just knew by the number of questions we were getting that, and how long that we've had clients own their self-directed IRAs, that it was time to do this. This was the type of information that our clients were asking for, they wanted. That's why we brought you on. How we're going to do is, I know you're going to do a presentation and really kind of go through some of the ins and outs and your expertise. Sure. And then we'll follow that up with Q&A.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll touch this on in kind of reverse order, for those of you that are listening here. So a lot of what we're seeing, because you have to imagine, if you're putting yourself in my shoes, everyone is bringing me their shiny objects, right? But what we see more of now, with those of you that are not self-directing yet, is you're in the stock market in some way, shape, or form. And the stock market has just been doing one of these, for a while now. And we've got inflation, recession, all of these, buzzwords that are happening. How do you take control of that? And the answer is some type of self-directed account. I want you to know if this, and I put together this little bonus hot sheet for you here, for those of you who are watching this, if you have one of these types of accounts and you have experienced like, oh my gosh, my account balance went down by 50, 100, 300K. Chris, I've been handing out more tissues than I care to count this year. And it's like, that's frustrating. But, if you find yourself in that position, this is the way I look at it. You can do one of two things, okay? Because now that this is a solution, you can either leave it where it's at, buy, hold, hope, and pray that it comes back, or you can do something about it. And doing something about it is you move that to a self-directed account where you can get it into something tangible, like a turnkey rental property, etc. That is going to be, so let's look at those two real quick side by side. Over here, you don't have control. You can have someone hop on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and throw their personal comment out there, and your portfolio can literally go down because that person's sense of humor or opinion. Like, that is no control. Versus you have, what are the three basic needs of every human being, Chris? It's food, clothing, shelter. Shelter is shelter, right? My point is housing, you guys. Even if you're brand new and just kind of dipping into this world, look around you. You've got 4 walls, a ceiling, and a floor. That's real estate. Everyone needs a place to live. So if you can have something that is tangible, it's secured, it's insured, like that's one that's missed a lot. And it not only cash flows, but it appreciates over time, but it cash flows consistently. So you've got predictable, consistent income coming in tax sheltered. Like, which one makes more sense? And I know I sound Captain Obvious, and I know I get high on my, all excited about this stuff. So forgive me if you're only listening and not watching, but those are your two paths. You either sit there and, I'll hand you a tissue and you can cry by, hold and pray that it comes back, or you can rip the Band-Aid off and do something about it. Because even though, oh, but Amanda, I'm down 50K. Well, you know what? You can go down even further if you don't do something about it. If you move it and get it into that tangible, arena, you can literally count to the day when you're going to be back in the black, which makes more sense. It's a big D word. That's the Captain Obvious word here. It's called diversification, so that was just one of those take homes, because the other part, and this is my frustration part, Chris, because this is why I love working with you guys, because when I'm on this side of the fence, we are a passive custodian. We don't recommend or endorse any civic investor, investment sponsor. We're not attorneys, not CPAs. What I mean by that is I can't say, oh, go call Chris. Like, I'm a passive custodian, not hard to figure out who we work with, but it is, I can't say like, oh, here, look at this property, or call this person. I can show you the how. I can show you creative structure options, until the cows come home. I can show you how to do this with multiple accounts for your kids, all of that, but I can't say, here it is, as far as the investment. So I'm more of the vehicle and more education than you ever want to absorb, and the REI team has like the result, the tangible, the deliverable that's going to be that answer that you might not even have known you were looking for. That's where, how this relationship works so seamlessly. Because and tell me if you guys hear this. And I mean, just from working with the team, I know they hear this too. You go to school, you get a 401k, IRA, throw some money in it, right? Hope and pray it's there at the end of the day. These vehicles you see right here on your screen, that's exactly what we're all told to do, right? Well, there's a lot of risk in the retirement accounts. It should be backwards, right? Because now you build up all this risk, you have this stuff in the stock market, and then you figure out, I want to diversify into real estate. I mean, shouldn't it be build the foundation with the tangible assets, and then you have the risk tolerance to do stocks, bonds, mutual funds, right? It should be inverted. Now, that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, for those of you that are listening and you are not in, you're not an entrepreneur, or maybe you are a full-time entrepreneur, or you have a good W-2, great earning career, you and your husband, a lot I find will have like that side hustle company, or they have additional streams of income, just like many of the clients here. You have these types of accounts you might not even be aware of. Like literally my call before this, the wife's like, she's doing one of these and I can't even see her, 5 old 401ks just hanging out there. I'm like, avert eye contact. The record's 17 if you're one of those folks. Feel bad. But when we leave the old job, if you were a teacher, you might have a 403B. If you were a firefighter or worked for the county or a police officer, you've had a 457B. If you served our country, thank you. You have a TSP, a thrift savings plan. Step simples, those of you that are inheriting IRAs is a big one that you can self-direct. So all of these are tools that you aren't locked in the stock market. Okay. So it's how, what do I do? Like I don't know what questions to ask. Like I love the first question I had in the chat today was, what are your fees? That's always the first question on everybody's, because they don't know what questions to ask. When you're working with a self-directed custodian, it's in the same thing, Chris, you hit on it. It's a relationship, right? This is long-term. This isn't like dating in college, right? I mean, this is like vetting your spouse, right? This is going to be that long-term relationship, right? Sorry, did I make you uncomfortable? Bad analogy. I could have made it.
I don't think anybody I knew in college is on this. I'm good.
All right. All good. All right. We'll avoid those questions in the chat. But no, in all honesty though, it's a long-term relationship. It's retirement, guys. This isn't like, an in and out transaction, so that kind of gets me to the next like segue, when it comes to, deal structure and trap equity and dead money or retirement accounts that are out there not doing what you want them to do, So this is more of like the technical side. So I want to bring your attention to the screen, because everyone always asks me, well, what if, I've got enough cash to buy a couple properties in there? How do I do that? If I've got 100, 200K just sitting there, could that be a property? Sure could. What does that look like? This is it. And this is usually like the mystery. Everybody's like, it's got to be more complicated than that, but it's not. You open an account. Right. Okay. You fund an account. You pick a property. That's it. And once you pick your property, this is what that looks like. You open the account, number one. Number two, the secret sauce is just the titling, guys. That's it. That's the secret sauce. It's instead of Christopher Clothier, it will be Specialized Trust Company Custodian, FBO, Christopher Clothier's IRA. Okay. Very easily done. You do the closing remote just like every other month. And then Premier is going to go in and do their rock star job and get that rock star lease and get it over, over market rent, right, Chris? And then they're going to, they do an awesome job, by the way. And why do we know this? Because we see these rent checks going into our clients' accounts on a monthly basis from the operational end. So I poke fun. But when those rent checks are cut, they're not going to you personally. They're going right back to the retirement account. And on here, I have the example of a Roth IRA. That is, I'm going to use my, the silly thing. If you don't know what Roth is, like, take this nugget away. You pay the tax on the seed and not the crop. So whenever you hear Roth, I want you to just think in your mind, tax free is it grows tax free forever. Like for you, your children's children's children, it's tax free forever. That's like when we talk about, we talk about with our mutual clients and just even events that we've done, it's legacy planning, right? Have you ever sat with somebody, Chris, and they're like, oh, I'm just doing this selfishly for myself, no future plan?
Not once.
What's your why? What's your motivator?
Right.
I always love when I hear, I want to retire. Well, no kidding. We all do. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So then it gets to, I want freedom of time. I want to spend time with my kids. I want my kids to not want what I wanted on my journey, and putting these two together allows you to do that. So speaking of putting these two together, let's go to the next slide here, because I see this one a lot. And this is just creative deal structure, guys. So let's say you're married and I'm just going to use an example of $200,000 property, and you've got $100,000 over here and husband's old 401k and $100,000 over here. Can they do that deal? Yes. It's just partnering, guys. That's all. You just partner together. Again, it's in the titling, that 50% undivided interest. It's just you own it half and half, just like marriage, right? You split things 50-50, the expenses as well as the profits, just to mention that. But it can be done. And I want you that are listening here to think of this, not just with your significant other, but think of other family members. Chris, what's the Chris Clothier team up to? How many kids do you have?
5.
He always outnumbers me, so I make him go. I only have 2. But the point is, like, when you start this stuff for your kids, you're not really starting with a lot in there. Our fun friends at the IRS limit like how much you can put into these. That's why it's meant to grow over time. But you can partner their accounts with yours. I can show you some really crazy fun stuff where we open like an IRA for mom and dad, and then we have Roths for the kids. And now it's like, well, heck, I got all these accounts. What do I do with them? Well, just think of like creative deal structure, right? You can have each of those accounts. And then when you're partnering with somebody, what's that company thing? Because I'm not an attorney. What's that called? An LLC, right? You can form an
Correct. LLC.
Right? Where each of those accounts partner together in that LLC. And what can you own in that LLC? Real estate.
I think.
And it's cash flow coming in tax-free, and your whole family is benefiting. Now, when mom and dad pass, and I know no one wants to think of that, who inherits those? The kiddos. Think of that the other way. If you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and you're looking at estate planning and, for your parents as well, it works the other way too. So again, investing, we always say investing is a family sport, but that's one of our, superpowers here at Specialized is we don't just say, oh, you got a little 401k, let's pop in an IRA, get that working for you. Like, yeah, it's part of it, but you got to look at the big picture. Because if you're only looking at a small window, that's not going to get the job done. And that's where like a lot of your current clients, and I just know this because we've had great relationships, long-term relationships, they're at the point now where they purchased properties, 10, 15 years ago. And, they used leveraging, which I'm going to talk on next, and all these creative strategies to pay these suckers off. So now they're sitting on a free and clear portfolio, but they're not
Right.
59 and a half yet. 59 and a half, guys, is when the IRS says you can take this money out without getting slapped on the wrist by Uncle Sam. So what next? I mean, if you've ever talked to me before, you've heard me say this a million times: rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. What does that look like? Well, if you guys are doing stuff outside of your retirement account, you probably already thought of the answer. Oh, it's a cash out refi and you buy some more, right? It's the same thing in retirement account world, guys. Hey, let's go to this next slide and I'll show what this looks like. So for those of you that have not done deals in your retirement accounts, we covered outright, we covered partnering. This is the powerhouse one, is leveraging. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here. I have more of a Robert Kiyosaki hat than a Dave Ramsey hat here. You're going to use this intelligently. Leveraging is a tool to acquire more assets with less capital to get to your cash flow goal sooner. That is what it is. Okay. So I want to make sure we're all clear there. Now, can you leverage retirement accounts, Chris?
Yes.
Absolutely. So the type of loan, and you see it on here, it has to be a non-recourse loan. And I'm not wanting to give you guys jargon. That just means asset-based, guys. So it's an asset-based loan. It's an IRS rule where there is no personal guarantee. It doesn't go on your FICO. It doesn't go on your debt to income ratio, none of that. They are just lending on the asset itself and the performance of that asset. So when you're thinking of that, would a non-recourse lender really love to lend on properties that are managed by a rock star property management team and that have a track record as long as REI Nations? I think you don't have any problems there, right? So that is, and that's just something to note, because that's something that non-recourse lenders look for. They're lending on the asset itself. There's no PG on there, personal guarantee. Sorry, acronyms are horrible. But that's what they want to make sure, that it's rehabbed right, it's managed properly, and then it's going to be rented and cash flowing. Because what's that cash flow paying? It's paying that mortgage. Right. All right. So there's a reason on here, and this is a conversation for another day, but the Roth Solo 401k is the triple threat of all retirement accounts. So whether you're in W-2 land or self-employed or have a side hustle LLC, sorry, it's not a professional term, you can have one of these as long as there's no W-2 employees anywhere. And the reason why is because when you leverage them, there's no UBIT tax. Okay. Unrelated business income tax is on the borrowed portion of when you leverage just an IRA. Okay. And sorry, I'm getting technical here, but that's where working with the right team makes sense, because can you just make that a 401k and leverage it there? Yes. That tax that I'm talking about, guys, it's like 37%. So when I talk about knowing what you want to do and doing it with the right team, that is a 37% tax reason why. You want to make sure you're with the right team and having the right type of deal structure. So here's what this looks like. Open solo K, fund solo K, close with a non-recourse loan in the name of the solo K. And then all of the cash flow goes right back to the solo 401k. And then that mortgage is paid off month after month after month until it's free and clear. Now, can I throw a twist in here? Is that okay with you, Chris?
I'm all good. Twist it up. What do you got?
So I want to throw in, because this is a strategy. I mean, when I was a member of the team and still today, I preach until the cows come home, because if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you're not pulling this cash flow out right away.
No.
So what's stopping you from taking the net and paying off that loan sooner? It's just the debt snowball, right? Is what it is. So instead of a 30-year fixed or 15-year fixed, you're knocking that out in 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And now your property's free and clear.
Right.
So I know just from talking with current clients, it's like, well, I have this trapped equity. What do? It's cash flowing. So it's still looking good on the balance sheet, but it's time to take that next step where you do the cash out refi And now you have more assets inside of your account. And then it's just reverse engineering the numbers of how quickly to pay it off. Yeah.
Right.
So when, like, I know we were discussing a couple of like different strategies that we see, that's a huge one that is missed. And for those of you that do real estate investing, I mean, you've heard of the BRRRR and the cash out refi, et cetera. Well, this is the same darn thing, but it's in your retirement account. So if you can use OPM, other people's money, we say OPI, other people's IRAs, but it's non-recourse loans, to be able to do this. I mean, you're 10xing your portfolio, and I mean, Chris, you tell me, so, because you guys have proof of concept here with
Right.
portfolios, so investors that have done this like 10 years ago, and you guys do your portfolio review, like, what does it look like for them today?
Well, big numbers, but for somebody that had a $200,000 IRA portfolio that they rolled over and they made a self-directed IRA, we were able back then to take that portfolio, that $200,000 in their IRA, and turn it into roughly $360,000 to $380,000 in real estate that they had leveraged at 50 cents on the dollar. So it's a $380,000 portfolio leveraged at 180. I did that wrong. 180 divided by 2 is 154, 190. So they take their, it's bad. They take that portfolio and it's leveraged to pay off in 10 years. So it's earning them just straight up, they're earning 8 points by doubling in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
10 years on, they've got a $380,000 portfolio that has gone up in value. Even with a nominal increase in value, they paid it off now, but that 380 that they bought is worth, even if we look in the 10-year, these past 10 years have really outperformed the traditional market. But let's say in that 10-year time frame, you're looking at a 40% increase in value. Many of these have doubled in value over the last 10 years, but 40% is a decent increase in 10 years. You're talking about now a portfolio worth a little over 500,000. And remember, they started off with, they had a $200,000 portfolio that in 10 years time is worth over 5. They have assets in there that are now free and clear that are producing an income to them.
Yeah.
But that's where the big rub today is, that I know that you said a second ago, 59.5 is when you can begin to take money out without penalty by the federal government. But I don't know a lot of investors at that age that are saying, I'm ready to stop.
Mm-mm.
A lot of investors we're talking to are like, I'm not ready to stop. I still have time. Even if they're approaching 59.5, they're like, when do I have to take my money? Which is, what age do they have to take their money?
So they just changed it. So it went up to 73. But I want to clarify, guys, because they just passed the Secure Act 2.0, and there's some changes to this. So 73, if you have a tax deferred account, so any account that's playing the tax game and kick the can, so traditional IRAs, traditional 401ks, simple SEPs, Uncle Sam comes knocking at your door at 73 with his hand out, and you got to start taking money out,
Right.
And you take out cash flow, you can take out assets, et cetera. Now in the Roth, there's no RMD, like it's tax-free forever,
Right.
So something that I know, mutual clients of ours have done is they use the depreciation outside of their retirement account to cancel out the tax from converting from tax deferred to tax-free. And that is, we're getting more in advanced like tax strategies here. And again, I'm not
Sure.
CPA, but that is, if you're doing this inside your retirement account, you're typically doing it outside too. And this is how you play both sides of the fence and work the tax code, because it's not about what you make, it's what you keep. Right. That's exactly it. So that's the big, powerhouse of it, I guess we'll say, is just being in the right type of plan. But I'm going to give you the reverse of that.
Sure.
So let's say, you've been, I'm 50 and I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of it. done. Like, I want to live on my cash flow now, but I'm not 59 and a half, and I can't, knock on the IRS's door and say, please change the rule for me. How does one do that? So this is something cool. It's called a 72T. And this is where cash flowing real estate works very well with a 72T. Because what that is, guys, is when you're under 59 and a half and you file one of these and you have it in a great asset class like turnkey real estate that produces a consistent, predictable cash flow. Once you file that, it pretty much locks the door on that IRA. That now you can take out a set amount every year without getting penalized. That is huge. I get that question all the time. So yeah, it's the same both ways. Twofold, like even when you are 59 and a half, I mean, if you've been in the tax deferred side of things, I mean, are taxes like high? Are they high right now?
Oh.
Are they going higher or higher, right? And sure. That's the pain point. So that's where you have to look at it. If you can have, instead of generating 10K a month outside your retirement account, get that going inside, and then only pull out what you need. Now you're saving, you're hedging against taxes and you're hedging against inflation. If we can figure out a way to get that into a Roth, so maybe that's split 50-50, now we're talking turkey. So these are the types of, strategies and ideas, big picture stuff that you don't get at usually the networking happy hour. We're taking it a couple layers deeper right now.
Well, absolutely. And look, we know our data tells us not to go too deep here, but we talk to our clients every month. That's kind of a bit of our specialty. That's the thing that's different about us. And through those conversations, we have real relationships, and those relationships lead to the questions of, how do I do this? I'm at a point now, I need to grow my IRA. I have, X amount of dollars. It's gone up in value. I'm ready to either sell it and buy a new portfolio. I'm ready to refinance it. There's a lot of questions. I know that we're at the point now where, if you're ready, let's jump into everybody's questions on here, because I know we've got a lot, and I want to make sure that we get to the questions of all of our viewers today. That's going to be, let's see where we're at. Yeah, we're probably at the spot where we need to do that.
Let's go.
All right, so I'll read them off, let you take it from there.
Okay.
We'll do the easy one first. What are the fees associated with the self-directed IRAs?
Yeah. So fees, guys, they're nominal compared to what you pay in a managed account. Like your managed account, like I always ask the question back, what do you pay in your managed account? No one knows. And don't feel bad if you don't know, because no one ever does. It's usually 6 to 7%. Here, I'll give you an example of $100,000.
Annually? Is that annually?
Yeah.
6 to 7% of the amount of the account?
Oh yeah. If you're in mutual funds, you're paying all of those mutual hands in your cookie jar. They ain't doing it for free.
Yeah. Okay. Hit it.
That's so in our world. Okay. I'm not even just talking about specialized trust, but just a self-directed world, there's no back-ended interest. So when you're buying a property in Memphis, Dallas, et cetera, there's no back-ended interest for the custodian. Okay. It's all upfront. One-time setup fee, annual fee, transaction fee, period. Okay. Our transaction fees, because I've seen this is how they gouge. They try to be like, it's structured almost like a title company, I think, is my best analogy. They charge you $500 when you buy and you sell, $70 for document handling, $30 for processing. Every time you want to check or to move anything, fee. And when you're holding turnkey rentals, I mean, I know just firsthand experience, it becomes a freaking nightmare when you go to your reserve cushion because you have, a maintenance or paying taxes and it's gone. It's like, yeah. And I know, customer service has dealt with that, it's frustrating. So we said, no. Buy investors for investors. It's fixed, it's flat. So like 100K account, you're looking at $225 setup, $975 annual, and $425 for our all-inclusive. They call it specialized black because it sounds prettier. But that's 16 and a quarter year one, 1,400 year two. So it's not expensive. And as that goes up, like a $300,000 account, guys, it's less than 0.5% for what you pay. So we work with some great like fee-based advisors that will diversify your portfolio outside the stock market into, rentals like what REI has. And they tack their fees on top of ours and they don't get a fee objection, and like, just to give you an idea. And their clients are happy because they get that white glove red carpet service. And the advisor's like, yes, because they can sit back and kick up their feet and they know it's handled, so it's a win-win-win-win, so I never want that to be, that's just a limited mindset objection. Everything costs something. Like there is a monetary to everything, but with self-directed accounts, I'm easily made up with your returns easily because you're paying them anyway.
Hey, Chris and Amanda,
Perfect.
if you don't mind, before you ask the next question, I just want to remind everybody, if you could put your questions in the box that says Q&A instead of the chat box, that would help us out a lot to make sure that Chris and Amanda get those answered for you. So it's the box at the bottom that just says Q&A. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, will do.
So, and on some of these, Amanda, I think it's going to help here real quickly to tell everybody some questions are, I may avoid some questions because some questions have, it's not personal information, but some fairly specific information. We'll do the best we can to make sure we answer these right. But Amanda has her contact information here. I want to make sure I suggest you can do the QR code there on the screen. You can also call Amanda, send her an email. I'm just going to encourage everyone here that, especially for some of these questions that are super specific, I would absolutely just spend a few minutes with Amanda outside of here, get on her schedule, because these are some great questions and we're going to answer as much of this as we can. But some of this, there's just no way that Amanda's going to be able to go into the detail that's required on some of these. And that's okay. I love the questions. This is absolutely amazing. This is why we did this to begin with. These questions are great, but we'll try and answer these as quickly as we can so we can get the rest of the 30 questions. But also make sure that, well, that was not meant for you, Amanda. Okay, so the question is, can you purchase a single family residence with a self-directed IRA, but furnish the rental with non-self-directed IRA funds? I don't really know if that's mixing, but you go ahead and answer that properly.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's held LLC.
You can purchase with an IRA. Okay. B, if you're going to furnish it with your credit card, that's a no. That's commingling funds. Could you borrow money from a gap funder from their IRA or personal loan? It has to be non-recourse, just written in there somewhere. Yes, you can use OPM to do the furnishings and pay it off if you needed to. One of the structures, and I saw this question float by, so I'm going to address it because you mentioned it just now. One of the deal structures that's very common, guys, is when you have an IRA or 401k or group thereof, and you partner it in that LLC so that you have that, checkbook control. I say that sarcastically because I get the question all the time. Ooh, y'all do the checkbook control IRAs? That's not a thing, you guys. That's just deal structure.
Was that somebody from Texas? Were you talking like somebody from Texas right there? Is that what you're trying to do?
I don't know exactly what that is. I have very random accents that can come out of my body at points. We're just not going to pinpoint it.
Okay. All right.
Take the infotainment and run with it, Chris.
All right. So again, for everybody on here, you cannot commingle. That's a big thing. And the question that was asked right there, if you're buying the self-directed IRA, if you're doing this is a midterm fully furnished rental, you cannot buy it with the IRA and then use other funds to furnish it. That is commingling funds. That's going to be a no-no.
Correct.
So somebody's asking, can you do a Roth conversion of a self-directed IRA full or real estate? How do you do this?
So
maybe
is the question, can you do a Roth conversion of an asset? The answer is yes. So let's say, for example, you have $100,000 property in your retirement account. You just get a fair market valuation done, which is not a full-blown appraisal. It can be a BPO by a licensed professional. It says this is the value of the asset, and then you convert it in kind. and you'll still get that 1099-R at the end of the year for the conversion, but you can do that. And you can do part of it too, guys. Like $100,000 added to your 1090, like a 1099, that's like, woof, you know, you're going to pay some taxes there unless you've got some kind of magic strategy over here. You know, could you do that in chunks over time? Sure could.
Perfect. You already touched on this, so I'm thinking the answer is yes. But they're asking, how does a 72T withdrawal in a self-directed IRA work with a real estate portfolio?
Yeah. So as long as it's a cash flowing real estate portfolio, then it's locked as soon as you file the 72T. You take incremental draws out for 5 years or to your 59 and a half. You know, but the key is you can't put any money into it during the 72T. So that was my comment. When you have it in cash flowing assets, that works very well for a 72T strategy. Would you want to do a 72T in the stock market where you have no control? Probably not.
So just to make sure I understand this thing fully, you can do a 72T, have set distributions over 5 years or until you're 59 and a half, whichever I think comes first.
Yeah.
Okay. And as long as if they have real estate that they paid cash for the real estate, so they own it outright. Let's say they used all of their IRA, they left money in there for rainy day fund, but they used the rest of it to buy the real estate. They cash flow $1,500 a month. They couldn't set something up to pull, you know, $25,000 out a year because it doesn't have that in it.
Cash flow that much. Correct.
Okay. So the 72T, if they have cash, pull it out. If it's a cash flowing asset, they can pull it out, but they need to be careful also, right? Because if you pull, I mean, this it's really,
it's tricky.
It's tricky.
Mm-hmm. You have to make sure you're reverse engineering your numbers and being very cautious when you're doing that. Because, you know, just like when you educate, you know, you have to have a rainy day cushion, you know, for things like taxes, insurance, maintenance, and vacancies, right?
Yes.
You know, so
which
now
we make sure that.
Yeah,
I mean, we're real big on do not use the whole IRA.
Yes, you guys do a rock star job of that, which I want to make clear, guys. Not everybody does. Like when I bring that up in a conversation, they're like, "Huh?" You know, so that's very pertinent. You know, but also your cash flow should exceed what you're pulling out of the 70. That's the magic.
All right. Can you use your self-directed IRA to buy a piece of foreign real estate?
You can.
Okay. I could buy a Mexican beach house if that's what a beach house in Mexico. If that's what I wanted to do. Okay, very good.
You have to do an LLC because the laws are different because it has to be a Swift wire. But
right. So there's little rules, but follow the rules and you're all good. Yeah,
absolutely. I've seen this question a couple of times. Can you move from one self-directed IRA provider to your company? Yes, you can. Even if you have assets, guys. Like even if you hold real estate already, it's just called an in-kind transfer. You don't have to do is cash. They're going to assign the assets over here. And then all you have to do is just update your deed with the county to make sure it reads specialized trust company. So simple, easy, painless process.
All right. So we have a couple of questions here that I want to make sure that we get answered, but these are tricky. You ready? I don't know what this one means. It says real estate purchases made with a self-directed IRA prior to 2020. What issues and concerns with these prior purchases?
Why would there be issues or concerns with?
I'm not sure. I'm going to ask whoever that is. And I think unfortunately we typed this question in for them, so I don't have the name on it. I'm going to ask whoever typed that question to maybe if they're watching right now live to kind of retype that in and help us kind of answer that one. I'm not 100% sure on that. Yeah. You're going to love this because, hey, just a quick brief breakdown on why specialty trust company is a better option to work with as opposed to other custodian companies out there. They listed 2 on here. And I know you would never say anything bad about companies.
It's a small industry, guys.
Of course.
We all know each other. I'm very familiar firsthand from my experience on the investment side with all of the other custodians and administrators out there, you know, so we don't sling mud, you know, but our big USP, you know, we have ethics, you know, but we're more by investors for investors. And I know that sounds cliche, but you can probably tell just from this conversation that we drink our own Kool-Aid a little bit. Do you think so? Probably. We have that firsthand experience personally and professionally. And I mean, I'm 14 years in the industry and I'm making myself sound so old right now, but you can't replace that. You can't read that in a book or from reading the Internal Revenue Code. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, like half the topics we've talked about here, if you bring up to another custodian, we're just one member of your financial team. Go consult your professional tax professional or your legal professional. Like they won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I'm not advising, just sharing information, right? So that's the big difference. We have rock star, like red carpet service so that things happen quickly. Your phone gets answered. You're not waiting 2 hours on hold. And these are experiences I've had with moving from other custodians, waiting
Right.
2 hours on hold. Hey, I'm sorry, we're just backed up. You're gonna have to call us back. Like you don't get that here. We have not only the experience and education on the front end to help you get to where you want to go, answering and tackling those questions, but importantly, we have an awesome team on the back end that makes sure that all are implemented and done so with ease to make that experience just.
Okay. Thank you. We have some really good questions here. I think you've already answered one of them. Jeff asked, can you change custodian? And is that just like a rollover?
It is.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So it's a DocuSign, guys. We hop on the phone. I do heavy lifting paperwork, click to sign, statement ID, 2 weeks or less. Your funds are here. You're ready to do a deal.
Perfect. So a couple of questions here. And I put these into one answer for you. So Jeff asks if they want to use leverage, what percentage will they need to put down? Hang on. Someone else says, when buying a property in my self-directed IRA, are you typically buying outright? So in other words, not with a 25% down and a loan. So kind of, if you would just kind of real quickly tell us what you're seeing out there in the industry. Yeah, because that's the other big thing that everybody has to understand on this before Amanda even says anything. She is the custodian. Their job is to make sure that, and I'm going to say this probably wrong, Amanda, but structurally, legally, everything is lined up correctly. That's what you guys are there for, to add that specialty on that side of it. What they're buying and how they're buying it. These are other entities that they deal with.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And we can't bless it like from an attorney standpoint, but we're looking at it from an IRS compliance standpoint. Yes. So to your question, as far as down payment, okay, that is going to be from the lender, the non-recourse lender. And a lot of it, it's not you personally. They just want to see you have the money in your account. They're looking at the property, so I see between, the industry standards, like 50%, you can see it go a little bit under, sometimes depending on the property.
That's down payment.
That's down payment. Yeah. So 30 to 50%, depending on the property. Amortizations anywhere from 15 to 30 years, and, rates are, usually in and around the 10% mark, give or take.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what you can, just as an industry standard, what you can expect. And then you just reverse engineer the cash flow numbers from there.
And it's excessive. I mean, it can be shocking when you first see a 10% interest rate on 50% down, but then when we as investors, and it took us a while, it took me, I was like, wow. But I actually, to be really clear with you, Amanda, I used the same strategy outside of my IRA because I got to the point where I was like, wait, I really like the idea of I get a 30-year mortgage and I've got a 7% interest rate, but I turn that into an effective rate of 2% by paying it off in 10 years. I don't need the cash flow. I take every dollar and I just shove it right into paying that note off fast, and therefore reduce my principal. I'm reducing my actual interest costs, and I'm basically changing my effective rate over the ownership of that house, especially if I own it for 30 years to, it's at sometimes it's below 2%. So that's really what this is. It's non-recourse, so they cannot take your property. They cannot come after you personally. They're looking only at the property itself, and they're willing to give you 50 cents on the dollar. They want their money back quickly, but like the example I gave a second ago, if you did a 10-year payoff at 10%, you're not going to cash flow. It's not going to cash flow. Okay. It might break even. It's not going to cash flow. But what will happen? You own your property in 10 years. If you take $100,000 self-directed IRA and you buy a $200,000 property and it goes up to be worth 300 in 10 years, you paid off the 100,000, you have a $300,000 asset.
Yeah.
That's why real estate is so powerful in this.
Absolutely. And you guys, like I've seen this time and time again. I get that knee-jerk reaction like, oh yeah, like, why would I do that? And you have to take your conventional mindset out of it. This is a retirement account.
Yeah.
You're not going to Cabo next week on those funds. They're stuck in there.
That's right. That's my big thing.
Yeah. If your option is, hey, do I buy one property for $200K cash, or do I buy 2 leveraged? Which would you like to have at the end of the day? Because those are your options. And if you're not using the cash flow, who cares what the rate is? Just use the tool and then pay that sucker down, make it free and clear, and rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. Like, I know I've had the conversation, and guys, when those numbers are ran, and I know this just from having the history of mutual clients, you run those numbers initially, everyone I've ever talked to, they're like, yeah, I know we put it like on a 10-year plan. It was paid off in 7. That's like,
right. Because rent went up. Because rent goes up in that time frame.
You're running those numbers in a controlled environment. You're not taking into account rent increases, et cetera.
Right.
So when you're, I hate to say worst case scenario forecasting, but you should be. And you reverse engineer those numbers. It's like, it's better than finding, hey, I found $20 in my jean pocket. That's like, times a million. It's tax free.
That's a really good point right there. That it is. I like the way you said it, closed environment, because you cannot, and you should not future cast your best case scenario. So you write everything on today's numbers, but it won't always be this way. And every house doesn't go up in rents the same level, but just us in particular, our company, the average rent raised 12.4% last year. Now that's I'm not looking at an individual rent. I'm looking at the rents that we rent properties for across the portfolio. And we see in every single city increases anywhere from 8% all the way up to 16%, on average around 12.8. Unbelievable last year. And for inside the self-directed IRA, if you are, again, you can't touch the money. There's nothing you can do with it. You might as well reduce your interest as fast as possible. Take every dollar that comes in, put it back into reducing that cost. You take a 10-year note, turn it into a 7-year note while the property is going up in value. Your rents have appreciated. I mean, it's a closed environment to capture all the amazing ability of real estate, and you're doing it tax deferred.
Yeah. And then you're going to turn around and rinse and repeat. Like, that's the other piece. And think of where we're at. Chris, you know more of this data better than you see more of this than I do. I get the questions all the time of, and I'll share this thing too. I've seen it because we look at our KPIs and our, account runs, et cetera. I have seen more in the past year move over without a plan. And what does that tell you? Because usually it's one of two things. Amanda, I got a deal, or Amanda, my CPA looked at me and said, I better do something, or I'm going to be paying a lot of taxes. Those are usually the 2 pain points or urgency moves, right? But right now, we've seen more clients moving their funds, their dead money over, and they're not quite sure what to do with it. From everything I've read, everything I'm seeing in the markets, rents are continuing to go up, and you guys have the data. What do you foresee the rental increases like over the next 5 years with the way things are now? What are you guys forecasting for that?
Okay. One thing we're not doing is forecasting 5 years. This freaking market's crazy, but we would have never forecasted 12.8 last year. That wasn't, we did not see that occurring. This particular year, it's going to slow down. I see tax increases being more on the side of, like, for us, we've always been this way. $25 to $50 rental increases each year adds up. We had clients who, though, after you have renewed a couple of times, they're behind by a couple $100. So then we had to catch them up on the rents. That's what caused that really big jump for us. I'm thinking 3% to 4%, maybe 5 tops. It's going to be this is going to be a year for me, especially where you want to keep good residents in, you want to keep properties occupied. That's what we do anyway. We're always pushing for that, but we're looking again at increases, more in lines of try and get it while we can, without forcing the resident out. So it's not necessarily going to be a percentage for us. We're going to be looking to get some nominal increase the way we always have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's built into stair step over time,
That's right.
and that's the way you have to do it. I mean, that's just like,
right.
talk to commercial owners, oh, they tripled my rent, that doesn't work out for anybody on that, on either side of that
Right.
point. You're looking
Right.
at it, cash flow. I have to imagine we're getting a higher qualified tenant pool because it's harder for first time home buyers.
Oh yes, big time. Big time. And they're looking for the better house. That's the thing. Now, there's a lot of demand. And this thing, it becomes seasonal. So we're coming right out of the really tough season to rent housing, and we're entering right into what's typically a really, we'll call it it's just more fertile ground for us to be able to yeah. So we'll see. I've got some yes, no questions for you.
Sure.
You ready? Would you have to use a separate self-directed IRA for each rental property?
No.
Excellent. How hard is that? How hard is that to say just no?
What's the next one?
Yeah.
I'm like rapid fire. Let's go.
Can I partner with my custodial account to buy a property via an LLC, non-qualified funds?
Yes. That is called having your cake and eat it too.
Can you use financing on a property without a tax penalty? That's without UBIT. I think the other way to ask this is, will financing trigger UBIT every time?
Not if you're doing it in a qualified plan, which that's the Roth Solo 401k. That's the only way to avoid UBIT.
Gotcha. Consult your CPA, right?
Yeah, thank you. You get it.
Okay. Are there any income limits to opening a self-directed IRA?
No. So this is a fallacy for like Roth IRAs. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm always in the beyond. I thought I shut all this off. And it's trying to shut it off, but it's not.
Say, let me talk.
Let me talk. Quiet. And I closed it out so I can't see my app. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Aoki. I'll call you back. Sorry about that. But so the question again was repeat your question.
Are there any income limits to opening a self-directed IRA?
Yes. So I get this one all the time. My CPA told me I make too much money to have a Roth. That's BS. As of 2010, anyone can have a Roth IRA regardless of income. So you have a traditional IRA, Roth IRA. So there's nothing prohibiting you from having a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. Your requirements, guys: heartbeat, earned income, social security number. That's it. You can have an IRA. So think of your littles. Is there a way you can get your kiddos earned income? Yeah, I'm winking if you can't see me. Yes, there is. Yeah, there is a way. So don't ever let income, if you're making more income and you're running into what I call the champagne problem of paying too much in taxes, we definitely need to chat.
Okay. Will the withdrawal from a 401k be considered as a distribution? I'm thinking they're talking about when you roll it over your 401k to a self-directed IRA, would they consider that as a distribution in your 401k and tax you on it?
No, you're going from a tax sheltered garage to a self-directed tax sheltered garage. So no.
Okay. Is a 1031 exchange required if you want to solo 1k property into another rental property?
No, solo 1K 1031s, guys, are just to kick the can of capital gains tax down the road. When you sell inside of a retirement account, think of this bubble. This bubble protects you from taxes, including capital gains. So there's never capital gains to be had in a self-directed vehicle.
Okay, I think you just answered this. I want to make sure I got this straight. You can open a self-directed Roth IRA no matter how much money you make.
Yep. You have to do, it's called a backdoor Roth.
Backdoor Roth. I'm writing all this down.
Yeah. So backdoor, and I'm not a fan of the name. I call it the two-step. You put money in the traditional and then you put it over into the Roth. You close the traditional. If you make too much money to take the deduction from this traditional, have your CPA file 8606 so you don't get taxed on the conversion. Boom.
All right. So I think this is a great question here. But I think I know the answer. I think it's fairly easy. You're gonna knock it out of the park. So I don't think that the retired part of this matters, but Kevin asked that when retired over the age of 65 and you sell a property, how does the gain on the sale get taxed? And if it's inside the IRA,
yeah, there is no tax. Correct.
But you get taxed when you pull the money out.
If it's tax deferred, when you pull that money out, you're going to be paying whatever your ordinary income tax bracket is that year.
Yeah, you won't get taxed on the gain because it's tax deferred. You only get taxed when you pull money out. You're just pulling more out, which is how you're paying more tax, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And remember, if it's Roth, there is none.
There is none. Yep. Okay. This person, I just want to confirm I can create a Roth IRA and invest in property.
Yes.
Good. Hey, look, I love that they're asking the question though. I mean, I just want to be sure because this is big. Okay. As you get close to retirement, does it make sense to still invest in a tax deferred IRA?
Yeah, depending on your tax situation, it does.
Yeah.
That answer is different for everybody. Just depends on how much you're paying in taxes. But yes.
Let me tell you something. And I'm just going to acknowledge this real quick. I really appreciate the way you just answered that because it's easy to jump in and just blurt something out, but it speaks a lot to your integrity to say it'll change for everybody. There's personal situations that you got to know in details. And again, that's why you're on here with us. Okay. Yes, ma'am. You already answered this. This was on one of your earlier slides. Can I do this with my HSA health savings account and use my IRA and my health savings together to buy a property?
Yes, a million times over. And your HSA, guys, health savings account. If you have a high deductible health plan, you can self-direct an HSA. The money put in, you get a tax deduction and it grows tax-free. And I mean, we're all getting older. So think of yourself like a car. When your car gets older, what does it require? Maintenance and money. That money in your HSA, imagine if you had a cash flowing property inside your HSA, taking off a monthly cash flow tax-free, and you can turn around and use that for your future medical expenses or existing.
Love it. Okay. Is there an age requirement? No. Okay. So Corey's asking, is there an age requirement to utilize a self-directed IRA in line with the strategies we're discussing? No.
I could show you how kids can do this.
Good. Is there a max income on the W-2 to still qualify to get a Roth?
No.
Nope. Yep. And a lot of these questions, I mean, I don't necessarily have to read, I want to, but they're not seeing that someone else is asking the same question. So does it have to be a Roth or just a solo 140K to avoid UBIT? Tell me again the exact thing that avoids UBIT.
So it's semantics, guys. All that Roth, when I say Roth solo K, that's just a component. It's a feature. That's all it is. So if you hear solo K, Roth solo K, Indy K, individual K, QRP, they're all the same thing. As long as it's a 401k plan. That's the key right there.
401k plan is how you avoid UBIT.
Mm-hmm. I saw one in here, Chris, I want to address. So
shoot it.
It's if you work for a current, if your 401k is a current employer, okay, can you move that money? Yeah. So usually one of two qualifying events have to occur if it's your current employer. One, you don't work there anymore. Okay, so that's easy. Two, you're 59 and a half. But I have a secret tip. So usually it's stuck, but some plans, not all, but some will allow for something called an in-service rollover. And if your plan allows that, you can move, it's usually a percentage of your vested balance to the self-directed account of your choosing. Now, here's a tip. When you call that big company, and I won't name anybody, and you get that customer service rep on the line and you say, oh, does our 401k offer an in-service rollover? And they immediately tell you no, I want you to smell BS. because they didn't check.
Gosh.
Every plan is written differently, and that plan document they have to reference is always like 150 pages plus. So they would have to do some research to find that out. So, oh, I appreciate you checking. Would you follow up with that, in writing? Thanks. And if they send that doc to you, forward it to me because I can find it really quick. I won't make you read that 150-page doc, but so there's a little nugget if it's your current employer's 401k plan. You can borrow from them too. That's a good one. 50,000 or 50%. And Chris, I know you've had clients do this before. Hey, I've got a current employer's 401k and it's stuff like, Chuck, what's my option? I can't quit my job. I'm paying for my family. What do I do? You can borrow 50% or 50,000, whichever's first, and then pay your 401k back with interest. So you're paying yourself back. So if you can take that and use it as a down payment on a property so that you're creating more cash flow in your pocket, why not?
Perfect. Okay. A couple things real quick. Hey, I need to sneeze.
God bless you.
Excuse me. Smelling BS. It got me sneezing now.
Sorry.
You went there. So a couple things here. When and how can you take a property out of your self-directed IRA for personal use?
So at 59.5, it's the distribution rules, guys. So at 59.5, you don't always have to take cash out of your account. You can take out an asset as a distribution. You have to have that fair market value. So you got to know what it's worth. So that's where that fair market valuation comes in, a BPO, broker's price opinion on the value of the property, to have a third party appraisal. I always use this example of like, hey, you buy a condo in Costa Rica and you Airbnb it in your Roth IRA. And now you're 59.5 and you're like, I'm flying the coop and I'm going to Costa Rica. Could you take that condo out as a distribution and go sit on the beach in your condo? You sure can. Because you can't go sit in that condo while it's in your Roth. That's self-dealing.
Okay. So real quickly, let's see if we can't knock out a couple more of these. And we're going to go, I don't know, Amanda, how are you? Are you good to go maybe 10 more minutes?
Oh, yeah. I'm good. I love this stuff.
Okay. I think the answer to this is yes, but can you change custodians if you already have a self-directed IRA set up?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just
Okay.
in-kind transfer. It's the same process. They just assign the assets over to.
And there is a lot of misconception on here about IRS income limits. So, because we're getting another question of, can you open a self-directed IRA if you're over the IRS income limit?
Yeah, there's no limit, guys.
Okay. Well, didn't there used to be?
So for where you guys are getting this from, it's for Roth IRAs. It's called the MAGI limits, modified adjusted gross income limits. Okay. If you make too much money, and I think for 23, and don't quote me on this because I don't commit these to memory for a reason, because I don't have to. I think it's 283 or 263 as a joint filing household. They say you can't put money directly in a Roth IRA. How can you change that? How can you fix that? Backdoor Roth. And so that rule changed back in 2010. So anyone can have an IRA as long as you have earned income, heartbeat, social security number.
Okay. So somebody's asking, can you expand on what the two-step Roth conversion means?
So it's the backdoor Roth is because there's no income limits for a traditional IRA. So where you guys are hearing income limits, it's only Roth. So the income that you put the money first into a traditional IRA, which this year it went up. It's 6,500 under 50, 7,500 over. Okay. Then you do what's called a conversion. This is when you switch tax environments. So you go from kick the can to never taxed. When you do that, who do you have to pay? Uncle Scam. All right, you get a 1099 for that amount. So if you pay that 1099, you now pay the tax on the seed and not the crop. So that allows it to be a Roth IRA. Now I'm going to take this one step further. So let's say you converted 6,500 this year. If you have a beautiful cash flowing asset that may give you depreciation or additional write-offs to offset the taxes incurred from that conversion, conversion, you've literally just moved money over to a tax-free plan without giving Uncle Sam a dime. That means take the W, like you won. You work the tax code to your advantage. So for those of you that have those types of questions here on conversions, December 31st is the deadline every year. Fourth quarter, clean up your QuickBooks if you're self-employed, get with your CPA and say, here's what it looks like for this year. What can I convert to a Roth without paying a dime in taxes? And if they say $5,000, great. If they say 50 grand, Merry Christmas. Do it.
Okay. Does the custodian prepare the tax documents for the account?
So there's really no tax documents for the account. We do the 1099s, the 5498s. That's what we report when we receive funds. So those pieces. Otherwise, they're tax exempt entities. Nice. So
how does so there is no depreciation on these pieces of real estate on your taxes? That's a question from Michael. All right. Okay. Excellent. All right. So is there any advantage to using a non-recourse loan for a new asset versus leveraging an existing asset to free up the cash to pay cash for the new asset? Is there any, is it 6, 1/2 dozen? Is there any reason to do one versus the other?
No, it just goes back to your own personal cash flow goal. Like what makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
cash flow doesn't matter because it's in the account, right?
Yeah, it's so that's what I was just gonna say. So if I'm 62 and I want that cash flow to live on, I might not look at leveraging. I might want it free and clear. But if I'm, I'm 39, I'm going to leverage that sucker and I'm going to acquire more assets. I'm totally in acquisition mode until I'm at 59.5 as far as retirement accounts are concerned.
Well, I think I'm missing something here. I can't. So if you had cash, let's say somebody has cash
in their account,
100,000 in their account, and a property free and clear worth 200,000
in their account.
In their account, okay. And so, is there a? So they've got 100,000 that they can buy $100,000 asset with, or they can buy another $200,000 house, use the $100,000 in cash to secure the loan against it.
Yeah, they would only have to take a cash out refi if the property was over 200K. That they're
so acquiring. I think what they're asking is it better to use that $100,000 cash, or better to take out leverage against the $200,000 property? And I don't think that there's anything significant about, leveraging a there's no tax advantage to doing that. There's nothing. It's basically you have the asset in there. You do what's best for you to turn the cash into assets.
Yeah, I was going to say it's acquisition strategy.
Yeah. And depending on how far away you are from actually using the money determines how much of your cash you deploy.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Are the rules for a 403B the same as a 401k?
Yeah. So they all follow the same types of rules. You can borrow against them, but every employer can say, no, we don't allow that in our plan. So you have to reach out to your employer to see if they'll allow you to do that, to take that restriction-free loan. Per the Department of Labor, that's the governing body, it's ERISA, you can, but employers can restrict it. We saw this a lot during COVID, guys. They blew the lid off that 50K amount and made it 100K, which was like, woo! Yeah, it's when you were using it for investing, let me clear that. But now it's back to 50K, so. All
right. I think this is another yes or no type question, but I'm going to ask you. So if somebody has a Roth IRA, a regular RIA, and a 457B, okay. They're currently employed and contributing into it. Can they combine all of them into a self-directed Roth IRA?
So you would start with the 457B. If you're not 59.5, it's stuck there. My experiences with 457s, they don't do an in-service rollover. I have yet to find a county in America that does. But you can take your traditional and your Roth, self-direct them both. And then if it makes sense to convert it to the Roth tax-wise, because that's a taxable event, then we'll get it all into one bucket. If it's like, oh man, that's going to give me a big tax bill, then you just self-direct both of them and partner them together and just convert a little bit at the time. I always say, this is a horrible analogy, and I guess I have kids, so I use this. I use the teeter-totter. Okay. You got tax deferred and you got tax free. Which side do you want the big kid sitting on? You get the tax free side. Right?
Gotcha. Yep.
Mhm.
All right. Can somebody borrow 100% of their solo 401k to purchase real estate?
No.
What's the
No,
limit?
so they can't borrow against it. I want to clarify. Can they use 100% of their 401k to buy an asset within the 401k? Yes. We have a requirement, $1,000 must stay in the account, but best practice, leave a reserve cushion. All right. Number two, you can only borrow, like if you wanted that instant gratification loan, I'm borrowing against it. So the cash flows in my pocket today, that's only 50 grand.
Okay, there you go. That was the question. Perfect. You already answered the fee to transfer an old 401k into a self-directed IRA with you guys. I think you've already answered that.
Yeah. And it follows around, depending on the account value, to like the 1.25% rule and then down, not to get too techie. And they're on our website. If you guys want to look at fees, I'm going to be honest, it looks like looking at a HUD settlement statement the first time. She's like, what applies to me here?
That's funny.
So just email me. We'll go through your scenario, hop on my calendar, and I'll give you exactly what it looks like, for you or your spouse, et cetera. So exactly.
Excellent. How much reserves do you guys require if somebody's going to purchase a piece of real estate? What kind of reserve do you want left in their account?
So we have a requirement because it's self-directed. So it's literally up to the client. I will share best practice of what I want to see in there. But it can always have, that's the beauty. That's the thing here, guys. You can say, oh, Amanda, that sounds great, but go pound sand. I don't want to do that. And it's okay. You can say, oh, that sounds great. And that's also okay. But yeah, you always want to keep like a 6-month reserve in there. Make sure your taxes and insurance are covered. Your non-recourse lender may have a requirement.
Right. Right.
I know.
And I like 6 to 12 months. I prefer 12 just because I'm every time I've talked to an investor and helped them kind of put that plan together. And I don't get to do this as often as I used to. When we were first, the company was super early. I used to work with a lot of investors on this kind of thing. I always told an investor that I prefer that 1 year. A year's worth of the payments means that you never find yourself in a cash call inside your account. You can only put so much in. So I was always like, hey, we're using the rental income. But if we think we're going to get 12 months rental income and never have an expense for the next 10 years, that's insane. For us, that's what we want. That's, we want to get there, but difficult reality. Yeah. This is a great question though, that Jeff just posted in here, because this is something I'd never thought of before. So let's say that you have your account set up, all right? And you are limited, and I think I'm going to be asking what he's asking here. You're limited to what you can put in each year. Are you limited to what you can roll over once it started? Say I have an IRA over here that I'm not rolling over today. I get this thing started. I buy real estate. I can only put so much into my self-directed each year. But 3 years from now, I decide I'm going to roll this other IRA I never put in there into it. My kid's IRA, my wife's IRA, anything along those lines.
Yeah. So once an account is tax sheltered, guys, it's tax sheltered forever until you take it as a distribution.
So you can continue to roll additional funds in.
Yes. So a question I get all the time, do you have to roll all of the account? No, you can roll part of it. It's called a partial transfer, for that reason. Are you limited to how many times you can transfer between accounts? No, you're not. So if you have, and this goes back to the diversification, if you have a, $500,000 account and you'd like to see 250 of it in real estate, it's just a partial transfer, guys. Easy.
Yeah, that's perfect. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then last question, we'll wrap it up here. And I want to remind everybody, I know we still have a number of viewers here with us. Look, it's been phenomenal. We answered almost 50 questions here today. Great information you shared with us from the beginning, Amanda, but all of her information is here. Hopefully everyone has already written this down. We will post this out on YouTube. We'll put it out in our Facebook group. We'll make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of Amanda going forward. You're not required, again, it has to be said, you're not required to buy real estate from REI Nation if you have if you have an account there with Amanda. There's also probably a list of 100 other things you can invest your money in outside of real estate. So Amanda is a custodian. She helps make sure you do it correctly. And on our side, we hope that the investment we provide is one that makes sense for your correctly set up and administered custodian self-directed IRA, right?
That's
Okay.
I love that you did the disclaimer for us. Like applause. But
yeah, well, I mean, I want everybody to understand. Look, I've had, and Amanda, I don't know if you recall this, a long time ago, you and I did an event down in South Florida, and I'll never forget sitting across from person, and I own the company. I own this company with my father, my brother, and I'm sitting there with a woman, and she's sitting there with us, and she starts explaining what she's got going on, and it's in the millions. She has, a couple of $1 million, and in her mind, she's like, I want to put all of it into REI Nation. At the time we were Memphis Invest. She's like, I want to put it all into Memphis Invest. I want to buy houses with Memphis Invest. And through the conversation with her for an hour, it was apparent to me that was not the right plan. Because she already had some investments. She had some oil wells. She had some other oil leases. She had done some mineral things. I mean, and the funny thing about it is they were paying. She was earning a good return on them. And her ultimate goal was a income number that she wanted to generate. And some of it she needed generated today. Some of it she needed generated later in life. And it would have been, I would have had to have no integrity to tell her what she wanted me to tell her. She wanted me to tell her to cash everything out. Let's go all real estate and it just wasn't the right idea. It wasn't the right plan. I'm all in that we're gonna attract the business to us that we need to get. We're gonna attract the ideal client, and those that I don't attract, I want them for you. I want them to be able to do business with you and get where they need to go. You know what I mean? Get where they need to go.
That's exactly and because you have that operational integrity. And I understand, and you understand in my world too, that's not always like, oh, you want to do this? Yeah, great. We'll open an account, in the same breath, self-direction isn't for everybody. If you're sitting there and you cannot make a decision to save your life, like self-direction is not for you. And that's okay. Like it is for that one that is ready to, make decisions and take control and, find a better way. And I always say this, and you'll like this one, Chris, it's never a matter of like, if it makes sense, if you're of that mindset, it's just when it makes sense, and it might not always be the time. And I remember that, going through, and we've had that conversation a million times over, it's diversification, and doing the right thing. And that's where like, your relationship with your financial professionals now, I mean, if they would have said that to, they hear that across the table, they're like, here, sign me up. And their contract basically reads, hey, you win, we win, you lose, we still win. Okay, sign here. And it's like, no, man, like that's not how business works. Like that's not how we operate. So I love that. And that's why you guys have been just a staple in the industry for so long. Because of operating that way. So that's a kudos to you, the family, the team. I'm going to ask you to hug your dad for me.
I'll do it. And hopefully you guys get other stuff going on. Hopefully they reach out to you. Thank you for everything. I really, really appreciate you being on here with me today. It's such a joy to catch back up, and it's always fun. I mean, look, and I'm going to reach back out to you again. We're going to do this again this year, if it's okay with you on your schedule, because we have gotten a lot of feedback from clients. They want more. They just want more of this. It's educational. It's informative, and that's what we need to do more. So.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, high five on the Zoom. Thank everybody for tuning in here. Your questions were amazing. Like I know we didn't even get to them all. So I'm really serious. Like my gift, I have an ebook on here, of course, I'm always going to give away free education, but hop on my calendar. I'm going to do my Dana, I'm always happy to hop on a phone call. Some are shy to ask questions in a setting like this. Like,
Sure.
It's okay. I'm
All right.
more than happy to. So all right. Hopefully I'll get down to Memphis here soon and, we can hang out in person, but.
I love it. Look forward to seeing you again.
All right. Bye all.
Thanks everybody for joining.
Bye.